Good morning, this is DealBook, your daily briefing from the New York Times, for Tuesday, August 11, 2026. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin. Mark yesterday on your calendar. It's a date we may look back on years from now as either the inflection point in the artificial intelligence boom or the moment it got so leveraged that a crisis began to form. NVIDIA's announcement that it was teaming up with a half-dozen Wall Street firms to lend $500 billion for the AI build-out adds a staggering amount of debt to the AI economy. It's a clever move for NVIDIA, which will go from being the de facto financial backstop for the industry, for which it has been criticized, to shifting systemic risk to Wall Street investors. Whether that's a master class in balance sheet management or the start of a new credit bubble is the $500 billion question. We'll unpack all of that, plus a looming wave of cyclosporiasis lawsuits, Waymo's growing pains, and a remarkable story about how President Trump secretly left Turkey in a catering container. Let's begin. The headline story is what we're calling the AI debt binge. Wall Street titans can't get enough of the picks and shovels of the artificial intelligence boom, data centers, chips, power plants. That's the clear takeaway from Monday's announcement that an all-star group of investors was teaming up with NVIDIA for $500 billion worth of funding to help finance the AI boom. The firms BlackRock, Apollo, Blackstone, Brookfield, Goldman Sachs, KKR said it was imperative to help tech companies amass the resources needed for their AI expansion efforts. "We need to raise this money as fast as possible," Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, said yesterday in announcing the initiative. The investment firms will dole out the funds via loans, credit, and more, available, according to NVIDIA, at attractive rates. Other details weren't available, though the Wall Street firms alluded to yield-based products and securitization. Fink said he foresaw a next future for financial engineering. The context here is crucial. The AI boom is already hugely expensive. Morgan Stanley analysts predict that hyperscalers will invest $3.5 trillion into AI infrastructure between now and 2028. Model developers are also spending heavily, Anthropic reportedly agreeing to lease computing capacity from Riot Platforms for $9 billion. Such investments are increasingly being built on debt, some of which was already being arranged by NVIDIA. The chipmaker has already been accused of arranging circular financing for its customers. Investors appear wary. NVIDIA's stock price began falling yesterday after the Financial Times reported on the financing partnerships. It closed down 2.8%. But the bigger problem, as DealBook notes, is that many Americans aren't on board either. Business leaders have defended data centers as a way to create, in Fink's words, a huge amount of jobs. President Trump has said they're tremendous wins for the communities that host the server farms, citing the taxes and jobs they generate. But data centers have become politically toxic in many quarters amid concerns about their strain on communities' energy and water supplies and the deals that companies have struck with local governments to build them. Those concerns have prompted some companies to step up financial commitments to municipalities where they want to build data centers. Consider Meta's new fund for supporting local communities, which DealBook hears will start with an initial $1 billion and is expected to grow over time. This tension is playing out in real time. Reporting from Tony Rahm in Washington shows that the rapid rise of artificial intelligence has started to rattle voters around the country, raising fears that they could be thrust from their jobs if the technology succeeds, or lose their retirement savings if the industry falters. But for all the emerging doubt and political blowback, there has been no sign of concern at the White House, where President Trump has generally maintained a much more sanguine view about the coming digital revolution. To the administration, AI can do little wrong. In recent weeks, Mr. Trump and his top aides have dismissed the suggestion that the build-out poses risks to local communities or the broader economy. And the deals being struck behind closed doors are extraordinary. Eli Tan and Maureen Farrell, reporting from Richland Parish, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans, detail how Meta used private talks with local officials to start a project big enough to cover nearly 6 square miles in Louisiana. A Louisiana state legislative committee was about to consider a bill in April 2024 when Richard Nelson, then the state's revenue secretary, received an urgent message from Governor Jeff Landry: get the bill passed. The newly elected Republican governor had been lobbied intensely by Meta, which wanted a sales tax exemption for data center equipment. The bill sailed through. Meta got everything it wanted: a secret deal, massive tax breaks, and a project that will consume enormous amounts of power and water in one of the poorest parishes in the state. Now, staying with the Mamdani administration in New York, a state judge paused a Pi-Day terror attacks yesterday. Judge Wayne M. Otzi of State Supreme Court on Staten Island granted a temporary restraining order requested by a group of homeowners who sued the city last week, arguing that the rollout was being mishandled. The halt didn't last long. The city filed court papers on Monday evening saying it was appealing the ruling, a move that allows the tax rollout to continue while the case proceeds. Meanwhile, the Mamdani administration is also backing legislation that requires distribution companies to hire delivery workers instead of using contractors, taking specific aim at Amazon. On the streets of New York City, thousands of workers hustle to deliver nearly 1 billion packages a year. Now, a high-stakes battle that could force Amazon and other big delivery companies to take full responsibility for those workers has reached a turning point. Mayor Zoran Mamdani announced Monday that he backs the Delivery Protection Act, a measure pending before the city council aimed at regulating the last-mile operations of Amazon, FedEx, and UPS. The firms say that will raise prices and slow service. In AI regulation news, Anthropic will watermark text and code to comply with an EU law. The artificial intelligence giant said the marks would be placed by new models and eventually existing ones on content generated anywhere in the world. The move is meant to comply with the Blocks AI Act and is aimed at combating the growing deluge of often misleading AI content. And the climate story: the US suffered its hottest month on record. Temperatures in July averaged 76.9 degrees Fahrenheit, 3.3 degrees above the average for the 20th century, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The heat's toll on businesses and households is taxing economies worldwide. Lydia DePillis reports on the financial toll of this year's brutal climate shocks. In early June, the power went out at Stephanie Hart's Bakery on Chicago's South Side during an intense storm and a suffocating heat wave. 500 ice cream bars meant for a restaurant customer had already perished, along with chocolate candies, and $30,000 worth of cakes in her walk-in freezer were at risk. Ms. Hart quickly directed her staff to pack the freezer with dry ice, which cost $1,700. Then she began calling every politician she knew. "Every goodwill thing I've ever done, I called it in," Ms. Hart said. Finally, it worked. The utility turned her power back on the next day, and her cakes were saved. But she's not relieved, she's worried about the next one. Now to a nightmare summer for Taylor Farms that just got worse. The giant supplier of salad and fresh-cut vegetables at the center of the U.S. outbreak of cyclosporiasis said yesterday that it was recalling some products with fresh jalapenos because of concerns about ties to a salmonella outbreak. The recalled products include spicy guacamole, mango pico de gallo, taco dip, and more than a dozen other Taylor Farms branded and unbranded products, distributed across 26 states to major retailers including Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and Walmart. The company said it was unaware of any reported illnesses linked to its products containing jalapenos. But the cyclosporiasis outbreak itself is the worst ever recorded. The country is suffering its worst ever outbreak of cyclosporiasis, a severe gastrointestinal illness caused by a microscopic parasite called Cyclospora and spread by contamination from feces. The CDC said in an August 4 update that it had received reports of 10,468 lab-confirmed cyclosporiasis cases and was aware of another 12,255 cases not yet tested. 2 deaths in Michigan have been tied to the outbreak. Both patients had significant underlying health conditions that may have been impacted by cyclosporiasis and dehydration. Michigan, at the center of the 9-state outbreak, has reported 11,234 cases and 193 hospitalizations. Many of the documented cases have been linked to lettuce distributed by Taylor Farms to restaurants and stores, including Taco Bell and Walmart. And the lawyers are circling. Personal injury lawyers who focus on foodborne illness cases are targeting Taylor Farms and other businesses whose products have been linked to the outbreaks. Bill Marler, the founder of Marler Clark, a prominent food safety law firm, told DealBook, "We have about 450 people that have retained us. All of the firm's clients have tested positive for Cyclospora." The firm has so far filed 6 lawsuits related to the outbreak. Ron Simon, the founder of Ron Simon & Associates, said he had taken on north of 1,000 clients related to the cyclosporiasis outbreak. Big payouts could happen. Marler said he had settled about 500 cyclosporiasis cases over the years for $20,000 to $1 million each, depending on the severity of the illness. And Simon said settlements for foodborne illness could be as high as $10 million. Marler said any damages would most likely be paid out by Taylor Farms' insurance company. He expects that other businesses affected by the outbreak, like Taco Bell and Walmart, will also file claims against Taylor Farms. "It's going to be a pretty damn expensive explosive diarrhea outbreak for them," he said. Taylor Farms did not respond to DealBook's request for comment. Our quote of the day comes from Rakesh, a 45-year-old engineer in Bengaluru, India, who told the Financial Times, "The tool that we gave our sweat, blood, and bones to threw us out. After showing our loyalty, the company did not stand with us. He built artificial intelligence tools for Oracle, only to lose his job. Workers in India's IT consulting sector, a major part of the country's economy, are increasingly worried that AI will wipe out their industry. Now to Waymo. An autonomous vehicle drives over a firework that is about to explode. Or drives into the lane of a highway that's closed for construction. These are what the autonomous car industry calls edge cases, situations that cars haven't been trained to handle. Despite Waymo's safety record, which shows 94% fewer serious injury crashes than human drivers, mishaps are piling up as the service rapidly expands. Owned by Google's parent Alphabet, Waymo has more than quintupled the number of autonomous cars it has on the road to nearly 4,000 today, up from about 700 early last year. Its vehicles are now in 15 metro areas, having gone fully driverless in Denver, Las Vegas, San Diego, and Tampa in the past month alone. Each week, passengers pay for about 500,000 trips. Amid that growth, Waymo has issued 3 federal recalls since December for software problems, including one where the cars drove into flooded roadways, compared with 3 recalls in the previous 22 months. Some edge cases have drawn headlines, including a December power outage in San Francisco that left nearly 1,600 Waymos frozen for at least 2 minutes. The self-driving cars came to a halt at intersections when the power outage knocked out traffic signals, causing tie-ups but no accidents or injuries. The ride-hailing service remained offline Sunday afternoon and tow truck operators said they had been towing Waymos for hours overnight. Social media was littered with videos of the stalled vehicles. This technology struggles to know when it's in a novel situation, Philip Koopman, a Carnegie Mellon University emeritus professor who specializes in autonomous vehicles, told The Times. And when it's in a novel situation, it's prone to overconfidence and spectacularly stupid failure. Such incidents have put Waymo in the crosshairs of regulators. Mayor Daniel Lurie of San Francisco has asked California's transportation secretary to set operational standards for driverless cars during major events and emergencies. Jonathan Morrison, the administrator of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, has summoned autonomous car companies to present fixes for autonomous vehicles interfering with the police, firefighters, and paramedics. Waymo is recalling software in thousands of its driverless taxis that could allow the vehicles to drive into flooded roadways. The company will recall its software after one of its robot Axis entered a flooded road during a heavy downpour in San Antonio last month. Waymo said it was pausing its driverless taxi service in 6 cities in Texas, Tennessee, and Georgia amid concerns that its cars might drive into flooded roads. Now to the speed read. In deals, here's how combining Tesla and SpaceX could help Elon Musk more easily hit a nearly $1 trillion payday. OpenAI reportedly bought back $7 billion in stock from current and former employees at an $852 billion valuation. Fenway Sports Group is said to be near a deal to sell a stake in Liverpool FC, the English soccer club, to an investor group that includes Jeff Bezos. Talks are continuing between Liverpool FC owners Fenway Sports Group and a consortium led by former Queen's Park Rangers co-owner Amit Bhatia over purchasing a minority investment in the club. Bhatia's group of potential investors also includes billionaires Jeff Bezos and the co-founder of Facebook, Eduardo Saverin. This would be the first external minority investment in the club since Dynasty Equity purchased a 3% stake in Liverpool for approaching $200 million back in September 2023. In politics, policy and regulation, Kevin Warsh, the Fed chairman, certified that he had sold all the assets he promised to divest to comply with ethics rules. A U.S. federal judge agreed to dismiss several criminal counts against Gautam Adani, an Indian billionaire, but criticized unbecoming conduct by a senior Justice Department official who moved to drop the case. And here's how Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who was running for the Senate, built up wealth from a cell tower erected at a hospital where he served on the board. Over the course of Ken Paxton's decade-long rise to prominence, through scandal and turmoil, questions about his finances have followed him. With Mr. Paxton locked in a close, contentious race for U.S. Senate in Texas, his Democratic opponent has questioned how Mr. Paxton, the state attorney general, has amassed a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio on a public servant's salary. Now, Mr. Paxton's financial disclosure forms reveal a 6-figure income stream from a cell phone tower on the grounds of a hospital where he was a board member. And in best of the rest, President Trump left Turkey in June via a military jet after a ruse that involved covertly deboarding Air Force One via a catering container after a threat from Iran. Top administration officials engaged in an elaborate deception to spirit President Trump out of Turkey during the NATO summit there last month, transporting him in a catering container to a military jet because of a threat against him and Air Force One from Iran, two senior U.S. officials said on Monday. Mr. Trump and other officials had said publicly that he would be leaving Turkey on July 8 aboard one of the older versions of Air Force One rather than a luxury 747-8 donated by Qatar that he had flown in on. And finally, the Wall Street Journal asks, is an average NFL quarterback worth $50 million a year? That's your DealBook briefing for Tuesday, August 11, 2026. We'd like your feedback. Please email thoughts and suggestions to dealbook@newyorktimes.com. Follow DealBook on Instagram @NetDealBook. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin. See you tomorrow.